Hi, this is Emily Kennison, and today I'm talking about the themes of the book Out of My Mind by Sharon Draper. So, there are four themes in this book I'm going to discuss. These four themes are the power of language, family, friends, and disability and ability. There are many more themes in this book, but I'm just discussing the four for now. So, in the first theme, we talk about how Melody's belief of language is important throughout the book and actually communicates a big idea to readers. Melody is very smart. She knows many words, she has thoughts, she has feelings, she has a great memory about every single thing that she's ever been exposed to in her life. But the problem is she can never express her words. She knows how she's surrounded by thousands of words, maybe millions. Words were sweet, liquid gifts, and I drank them like lemonade. But as I have mentioned, she cannot speak her thoughts and her feelings because she has a disability, cerebral palsy, that makes it to where she cannot speak. And this obviously inhibits her with her relationships with others. She notes how everybody uses words to express themselves except me, and I bet most people don't realize the power of words, but I do. Thoughts need words. So the idea is that because she cannot express herself, people will misunderstand her. Her relationships are inhibited, and no one really knows her. So, as an example, when Dr. Hughley is testing her intelligence. Dr. Hughley believes that she is unintelligent because of the fact that the choices that she makes is not the correct answers. But readers who read this particular part of the text know that Melody is actually pretty smart. She chooses her answers based on logic and facts and her intellect, and Dr. Hughley does not see that. The continued theme one is the significance of the meaty talker, which helps her communicate. So before the meaty talker, she had a word board, and her word board was very limited in the amount of words. She would just point to the words to be able to express to somebody what she wanted, and it caused a lot of issues. Now, her great neighbor, Mrs. V, helps her expand her words on her word board, and the idea is that those words are not enough. They're still not enough to express everything that she needs. A good example was when her father was out driving and she wanted to go out to McDonald's to get a Big Mac and a vanilla shake. And the only thing she could point on her board was go and eat. And her father didn't understand, and he even had to apologize for not understanding her. When she gets her meaty talker, she has millions of words to her access. Right on a computer, she can tell her mom and dad, I love you for the first time. She can crack jokes in class for the first time and actually feels like she belongs because she can communicate her thoughts and ideas to other people. The biggest part, though, in theme one has to deal with the fact that communication is important because it leads to miscommunication. So the biggest symbol in the whole book is the goldfish in the bowl. And in this particular theme, the idea is that she cannot tell her mom that her goldfish has escaped the bowl and is out on the table dying. And when her mom finally hears her, she accuses her, saying that she's the one who took the fish out of the bowl, which wasn't true. And it caused the fish to die because her mom never got there in time. The other second instance of miscommunication with a disastrous end comes from the very end of the book, where her sister Penny ends up behind the car. And of course, here Melody is. She knew that Penny was behind the car. She was screaming and wailing, trying to tell her mom, and her mom was just frustrated, thinking she was throwing a fit. And she accidentally hits Penny. It was lucky that Penny was alive. She just had very small, minor injuries, but that could have had a total disastrous end. So the book is trying to tell us that communication is highly important, especially when trying to communicate important ideas. The second theme has to deal with how Melody's family treats her, which she has a loving and supporting family. The beginning of the book, we learn her family loves her. Her mom and her dad read books to her, they bathe her, they support her in her endeavors, they support her in terms of her disability, trying to make it to where she doesn't fall. Her mom advocates for her quite a bit throughout the book. Two instances where her mom calls Dr. Hughley cold and insensitive because he believes that Melody is unintelligent, tells her mom pretty much to throw her into a mental institution and get rid of her because she's never going to be able to do anything. And so she calls him cold and insensitive for it. And then another instance is where Melody is in a special education class and the teacher keeps playing Old MacDonald Had a Farm over and over again and reteaching the alphabet. And the big deal is her mom is called in because Melody throws a fit. And Melody looks at her mom and her mom looks at her and then looks at Mrs. Bullops and says, "You do realize this is February. You shouldn't be, reteaching this over and over. They are more capable." The book also talks about how family is more than just your actual blood relatives, but people who love and care for you. So her neighbor, Mrs. V, throughout the entire book helps her, like putting words in her meaty talker, um, putting words in her word board at the very beginning of the book, um, telling her to go to the whiz quiz team and take the quiz, see if she'd make it. Also invites her to go to the aquarium when she wins the raffle ticket. Lets her bring her friend Rose. And also another important character in the book is Catherine, who is her aide in her inclusion classes, and she also encourages her to take um, the whiz quiz, and the test, and actually go and perform. The second theme, though, brings about that it's not just love within the family, but also tensions within the family. Um, the very beginning of the book, we learn about how Melody is trying to tell her mom about these blocks that are in the store and how they're covered with lead and they're poisonous. And her mom doesn't understand her fit. She can't talk, so she's just sitting there pointing and kind of screaming at her, trying to tell her. And she gets embarrassed and leaves out of the grocery store. Another instance is where Melody's mom ends up being pregnant with Penny, and she's so afraid of having a child just like Melody. She never thought anything bad of Melody, but she believed that she protects her own children. So when she couldn't protect Melody, she was afraid she had failed as a mother. And then on top of that, when she does have Penny, and of course Penny turns out okay, she has no disabilities, there's tensions within the family. Melody needs a lot of work. She needs help with feeding and drinking and getting her in her wheelchair and bathing and everything. So that's a problem when Penny comes along. And of course, her mom's upset because she's dealing with so much and kind of taking it out on her dad. But as we learn throughout the book, a good, loving family, tensions are always resolved and they always get through them. Theme three talks about friendship. So this is important with dealing with Melody's friend Rose. And why friend is in quotation marks is because really she's not that great of a friend. We know that Rose is a very nice person. She's the only person who will sit with Melody in the inclusion classes. She talks with her quite a bit. And even when Rose and Melody starts talking, when Melody gets her meaty talker, they know that they are friends when they finally can communicate to each other. But you can see throughout the book, she's slowly showing her true colors. At the aquarium, two of the school bullies, Molly and Claire, show up and they say, "Well, why are you here with Melody? Is it really on purpose?" And Rose kind of acts really shy and hurt because of the fact that she had to be seen with Melody. So she's really wondering, does she really have a good time with me? Melody also starts noticing that Rose is not one to talk with her much. She's kind of cutting her off further into the school year. And as well, at the very end of the book, Rose could have called Melody and let Melody know that the Wiz Kids team had gotten earlier flight and had breakfast together, but she didn't. And a lot of people can assume that Rose is dealing with peer pressure. Nobody wants to see her with a other person with a disability. They want her to be with them because they may not think it's normal. And this is the reason why she feels pressured not to hang out with Melody as much. Finally, in theme 4, we talk about ability versus disability. Now, of course, this is the biggest theme throughout the book because the main character has cerebral palsy and she's misunderstood quite a bit. And in these 4 points, there's many ways. We've already talked about how Dr. Hughley thinks she's unintelligent, though we learn that she's quite intelligent by her inner monologue. We've already talked about how Mrs. Bullops plays Old MacDonald Had a Farm and teaches the alphabet in February, meaning that she believes that Melody is not capable of anything else. Claire and Molly, as we've brought up before, bully her quite a bit and make fun of her. And even they'll drool and they'll say things like, hey, look, I'm retarded, and say stuff like that, which is really mean and disrespectful to Melody because she really isn't dumb. And the one that I have not discussed yet is Mr. Deming. Mr. Deming actually did not believe that Melody would make the the Whiz Kids team at all, and actually was trying to not say, not to let you down, but you're not going to make it. And she ends up making it anyways. In fact, he even thought he didn't make his quiz hard enough because of the fact that Melody ended up being the top scorer, which is really sad because, he doesn't see how intelligent she actually is. So, with disability comes ability, and the big deal is we learn that Melody is quite smart. She can remember everything from TV shows to commercials to stories that her dad has told her. The idea is that we learn that although disability is considered as a label, it's really not a label. It doesn't define who you are. It's really just says this is what I have, but this doesn't confine me to something. Because she has her own personality. Even though she's a person with cerebral palsy, she still has her favorite colors, green and purple. She still loves music like the song Elvira from the Oak Ridge Boys. She doesn't like sweatsuits, so she knows, and we know she has a personality. She is more than just a label. Also, Melody helps us learn that all kids with disabilities are more than just a label. We learned that Freddie in her inclusion class and her special education class loves NASCAR and loves NASA. We learned that Willie loves to yodel and plays baseball, and Maria loves holidays. So we learned that every single student has their unique abilities and interests past their disability. Finally, with theme 4, again, like I've mentioned, labeling a person based on their disability is not an accurate depiction on who they are. The biggest way we see that disability can be turned around in the book is how Melody makes this funny joke on her meaty talker that says, well, we all have disabilities. What is yours? And this is seen with Dr. Hughley because her mother says, well, my daughter doesn't have a disability. You're the one who has a disability in a sense because you're not as intelligent as you think. So really it kind of reverses the role of the term disability, the definition. The idea is that a disability is something that inhibits you. It doesn't have to be these 13 categories in IDA. As we know, it can be anything that inhibits you to see other people, to be able to reach your full potential. So here is the works cited page I have. The first works cited is just the book. The lit charts that you see on here talks about these 3 of these 4 themes. They also talk about another theme I did not get to discuss, which is a rejection versus acceptance. And the theme I talk about with friends is discussed in the other link called Discovering the Theme. So if you would like to check that out, you can click on any of these links and get a more expansive talk about these different themes.